We're having a network issue yet again. But yeah, I was going to pause you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And I was going to pause you and take it back to December of 2023 when we had Edison Ehie given an ex parte order by Justice Danagogo, the presiding judge of a state high court in Port Harcourt, to, take up the position of speakership. And of course, the court said if it found that, the whole thing was frivolous, that his application was found to be frivolous, he would have to pay 50 million as damages. Now, it is similar to what the Court of Appeal has ruled on. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if it is similar, then the question then is, does it in any way apply, or does Martin and his group of friends, like you've called them, have to go to another Court of Appeal to appeal this ex parte order?
Exactly. In my view, that's what I have said. That at the time that order was made, whether it was ex parte or interlocutory, those who felt dissatisfied had the right to appeal against that order at that time. So now let us take a situation where they haven't appealed against, right? And it meant simply that those orders or judgments in that court or any other court are subsisting and remain valid. Now, Martin Amaewhule and his friends, or anybody who is affected by any decision of a trial court that is dissatisfied, so that we don't anchor on these matters only, the general situation is if a trial court or a lower court, including the Court of Appeal is a lower court of the Supreme Court, if the Court of Appeal gives a decision and you're dissatisfied, what you've got to do to overturn that particular decision is to go to the Supreme Court. If you do not, that decision remains, even if it was made by error. Even if it was made by a court that didn't have jurisdiction, what will nullify it is the superior court to say, hey, whatever happened there wasn't right because that judge didn't have jurisdiction at all. It is not to leave it like that, then you assume. It is not by implication. It is by express pronouncement. And I wait to be faulted on this, because that was even why they challenged this particular decision.
Okay.
If they were going to wait on the outcome of the Court of Appeal, maybe on other matters, this decision would have stayed on. Okay. But they took the right step since they wanted to continue to parade themselves and also to have meeting or act as such. That was why they challenged this one. And the Court of Appeal has told them that, look, the person that made this order didn't even have the power to make at all. So by implication is that order, not implication, expressly, that order is null and void. Because once a court lacked jurisdiction, it meant that even if the outcome of that proceeding and the decision of the court was excellent and applies to, even if it was to apply to the law, but that you lacked the jurisdiction, it goes to a nullity. And that's what the Court of Appeal has simply said. And let me say again, Court of Appeal, I believe, in the wisdom of the justices, narrowed it to what was before them. They couldn't have gone into the matter of defection in December 2023. That wasn't before them. That matter is before other courts, including courts that don't have jurisdiction as it is now, including state high courts, but also some proper courts, the federal high court. So the simple thing that the Court of Appeal justice said is that, look, the proper court to determine these issues is the federal high court. Do you know what that also means, Kalada? To fast forward, even Okojombo themselves, right?
Yeah.
If they are it's a striking out. So if a matter is struck out for want of jurisdiction, it means that you can reinstitute the matter in the appropriate court. Or if it is want of procedure, you can take out the right procedure and reinstitute the matter. These are the legal things that happen in law.
Okay. So now, if we are not going to see the matter being reinstituted at the Federal High Court, that means we would have to go to Justice Omotosho's court ruling sometime in January, when he said that Martin and his friends, like once again you called it, should be seen and respected as speaker and lawmakers of the House of Assembly.
Yes.
So does that mean
that was what they held on until this restraining order came?
Okay, so does that mean that if Victor Okojombo and co would have to go back to court, that means they also cannot go back to a Federal High Court? They would have to go to a Supreme Court now at this point, or even a Court of Appeal?
No, they were not parties in that suit. Okay, let me state this again. Victor Okojombo and the two of them were not parties in that suit of Omotosho. I think, to the best of my knowledge, let me recount who the parties were. The substance of that matter the substance of that matter originally was when Martin Amaewhule and his friends felt that the National Assembly, there were calls at that time that the National Assembly should take over proceedings of the Rivers State House of Assembly. That's the clear matter before Omotosho. So Martin Amaewhule and his friends felt that there was need for them to preempt the National Assembly, and they instituted that action. That was why the parties in that action as the defendants is the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Clerk of the National Assembly. And those are the kind of persons that were the defendants in that.
Not just that, the police was, the governor of Rivers State was.
I want to go down there. So if you go down, you find that.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, if you go down, you find that another arm to that matter, another arm that they felt they wanted to also address was the issue of the if you like, deployment of the clerk of the House of Assembly at that time that was favorable to them. So that was why they included the Rivers State Civil Service Commission. Then if you go down, why they included the governor was that they said the governor was withholding their funds. If you go down, while they included the police, was that the police was preventing them, or was going to prevent them. So if you look at the nature of that Omotosho's matter, it is basically about the Martin Amaewhule and his friends, number one, taking a step to prevent the National Assembly from taking over proceedings of the Rivers State House of Assembly. So these individuals were not parties to that suit.
Okay, can I come in just, for clarity's sake?
Yes, please.
Ekine Eye was the 17th defendant, so he was party to the suit as a member of the Rivers House of Assembly. The governor was also party. The other lawmakers, Victor Kujumbo and the other name just kept.
We're not.
No, they were actually.
They were not.
They were not. Because
they were not. I have that proceeding.
Okay, all right. Let's not argue about that. Because I'm looking at it now, and the argument of speakership was brought up, but at the time, Ekine Eye had resigned as a member of the House of Assembly, so that matter was dropped and was not really talked on. But then the governor was warned against interfering with the legislative arm of government led by Martin Amaewhule. So that's what I've been able to come up with. So I don't know if the others were, but let's leave it at that.
Kalada, quickly, one troubling thing about that even judgment, right? The defendants withdrew all their processes before even that judgment was given.
Okay. Now,
the reason one very troubling thing about, but that's okay. That judgment could be what they had held on to that judgment because it was favorable to them, even if when they returned from their purported Abuja Accord, right, and then the defendants withdrew their suit, they remained and then ambushed the defendants and got that judgment. And the judge actually even mentioned that in the judgment. I have read that judgment. And then the judge actually said that the defendants having withdrawn their processes, they are not here. And then when you have a suit that is not defended, you enter judgment in favor of the claimant.
The reason why I said they were part of it. Now, the Omotosho said the court found it strange that the governor would destroy the Rivers State Assembly building as well as present appropriation bill to 5 lawmakers. He declared the presentation of the bill to the 5 lawmakers void. He also said something about the 5. He said the judge said the purported sitting of Eye and 4 other lawmakers who sat to pass the budget of the state is null and void. And the judge held, based on facts before his court, Amaewhule would remain the valid speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. So yet again, since there is that declaration by Federal High Court, does that mean that Victor Kujumbo and co would now have to be looking at either a court of appeal as it relates to that Federal High Court judgment, or better still, to the Supreme Court? That's the question I'm asking.
Kalada, I have responded. I have said, how to locate parties in a suit, Kalada. Whatever you're reading in the judgment, inside of that judgment, parties to a suit are not ambiguous. Okay. You pick up a process and you look at the face of it.
Okay.
Victor Okjombo, good boy also Sukari, and they are not parties in that suit. Kalada, I have that judgment, except maybe my part has those names.
Oh my goodness.
They cannot just appeal against that judgment as of right, Kalada. No, they can't. So the option as to whether they will go on appeal against Omotosho's judgment, except they take a procedure to seek the leave of the court, they were not parties, so they can't, as of right, appeal against it. These are the other aspects of law that only in practice that will be clear to those who get into practice and technicalities of it. I am not a party to a suit that maybe Nigeria Info went in against another person, a contractor who provided services to them. How will I go and appeal against that matter? How does it affect? Even if I feel like it affected me in a way, I should have entered that matter at the time. Okay. Then, like I said, if the judgment in a way affects me, then for me to appeal, I have to go through a process. There's a procedure, not as of right.
Okay, now get the point where I'm coming from. If the court then says, or had said at the time, that the bill, that's the appropriation bill passed by Ekine and co, is illegal, it's a nullity, and had said a couple of other things like Martin Amaewhule being the recognized speaker, and now there is a Court of Appeal judgment that says every state high court, or not every, let me correct myself, the state high court judgment by Justice Charles Wali, is null and void. It means that the Federal High Court is the only judgment that has got weight as it relates to the assembly matter. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Kalada, the judgment of Justice Omotosho, I believe, has not been appealed against and remains valid. Okay. I think I've made that foundation, that any judgment or decision of a court, including even a court that lacks jurisdiction, if that judgment has not been challenged and overturned, it remains valid.
All right.
Even if it was entered by mistake, even if it was the wrong law was applied, and it remains unchallenged and overturned, it remains valid. It may be overturned by a superior court or overturned by the court that made it itself. If you bring the appropriate application, drawing the attention of the court that that judgment was entered fundamentally in error or obtained by fraud. But where there is no manner of challenge at all and no decision of a superior court that has overturned it, it remains valid. So I have never said that Omotosho's judgment has ceased to exist. Like I said, Martin Amaewhule and his friends actually even held on to that. Not until the restraining order that today has been set aside. So it means that they will return to it and even hold on to it, that they have a judgment that actually even recognizes them and even their proceedings and decisions they have taken, resolutions they have made. Then again, like I said, there are matters challenging the root of all of these issues right now in the appropriate courts. That's why the Court of Appeal justices were wise. Those who probably not look, they were wise, but they didn't get into that matter.
Yeah.
They simply said, look, the appropriate court to get into that matter because they are aware that these matters are subsisting before the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt. So, but they said the appropriate court is so let us wait the outcome of the decisions of the Federal High Courts. Why I say so is not just one. I'm aware of the one that they say Boot Party and the others is related to this. The other ones of the civil society organizations is related to this.
All of them
and
joined
maybe
together.
Nobody is being restrained for further filing another one before the Federal High Court.
So now, the reason why I asked you was because while we're waiting for the judgment, I remember I asked the question, can we then recognize Martin Amaewhule and others as lawmakers until all of these cases that you rightly mentioned have been dealt with by the court?
There are people who have always recognized Martin Amaewhule. Those who recognize him will continue to recognize him, or those who don't recognize him will not recognize him.
So the government of...
I know why those who do not recognize him will not recognize him. Those who would not recognize him are hinging their ground on the action of the 11th of December 2023 and the declaration. See, let me say one thing again, Kalada. Nobody has faulted the declaration of their seats vacant. That was an action that has taken place even before 11th of, before the judgment of Omotosho in January.
So who declared their seats vacant?
A court cannot declare seats vacant.
It was Ekine, and the court said Ekine was, the court almost said that whatever was done was illegal. So that's where the confusion is, and that's why I've kept asking the question over and over again, because yes, people can in their own recognize whomever they want to recognize, but legally the government is supposed to recognize what is legal and stick with that. And the reason why we're having a conversation is so we know what is legal. So in your opinion, in your legal opinion, what should the Rivers State Executive Government recognize as the authentic, for the now by the way, authentic Rivers State House of Assembly?
when, if you like, very complex decision for the executive to take. You know why? There are subsisting matters, right? That even the government, the governor, is made a party, challenging the legitimacy of Martin Amaewhule and his friends. That may cause a constraint for the executive arm of government, or if you like, the governor, to even give heed to that. Then again, for those who have also gone to court to challenge, you would agree with me that they will not accept the legitimacy of Martin Amaewhule. But I said also, those who support Martin Amaewhule will hinge on Omotosho's judgment and hold on.
I see.
Those who do not support him, and especially with the decision of Dalagogo not having been challenged and set aside, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know if there has been any secret or perhaps not much public appeal against it, because the matters have become so much that you won't even know which one has been appealed against.
I agree.
So, but until all of these matters in the courts have been determined, and then the crux of the whole issue, which is the defection of the 27 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, is decided. And that is why I will enjoin the courts to quickly and promptly, particularly the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt Division. And you know what? The deliberate, if you like, maneuvering by even counsel and parties to those suits in the Federal High Court in such a way that has constrained the Federal High Court to promptly give decision in those matters is also compounding this problem. So I wouldn't want to be dragged as to which of these speakers is legitimate.
All right.
Especially knowing the matters that are subsisting in court and even the judgments that are available. It's not only Omotosho's judgment that is still valid.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we would have to wait then for the matter by the Boot Party, which is, I think, at the Court of Appeal currently. I think it is at the Court of Appeal.
Yeah, the Court of Appeal. No, I think it's still before the Federal High Court. If there is any aspect of it that is before the Court of Appeal, there could probably be another interlocutory appeal. Because I do know even a few days ago that whether that matter came up, the one by the civil society organizations, the last report I got was that there was an application for...
you're right.
I think discontinuance or so, which has not been taken. So it's subsisting.
Yeah, it is at the Federal High Court. You're right.
Yes.
It is at the Federal High Court, and the matter will come up on July. Is it July? I think July the 17th.
I know this July.
Yeah, July the 17th. So next week. It's just a couple of weeks, about 11 days from now. So we would have to just sit down, watch, and let's see how things go.
And let's end all of this once and for all. If the judiciary says that they want to look the other way and allow members of the legislature who clearly defected and then ought to have lost their seats following the declaration, but they want to say, oh no, like the applications are before those courts. Now, oh, they didn't defect. They only said it. Some are saying it was on social media.
Yeah,
but
true.
It wasn't on social media. This is a proceeding of the Rivers State House of Assembly on the 11th of December 2023 that took place on the floor of the House, presided over by Martin Amaewhule. He read the letter. Even when he made the introduction of the letter, that he has received letters of all the members, he read out the one for the Deputy Speaker. Then if the judiciary wants to look the other way in that regard, so be it. But let them quickly give the final pronouncement on all of these issues. And nobody is saying that Martin Amaewhule and his friends shouldn't have been in the House of Assembly. They walked away themselves.
All right, then.
Nobody chased them away.
All right. At this point, we'll have to step on the brakes, but thank you very much. I do have more questions. I'm tempted to ask you more questions, but time is fast spent. Thank you very much, Barrister Ekine, for your time and for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you, Kalada.
I know I've stressed you. You know, you had to explain over and over, but I was trying to make a point. And thank you once again. All right. The network, I have to let him go. Commercial break coming up next. You and I will dwell on this matter during the open season. For now, we'll go for the commercial break, come back and listen to the news update, and we will talk some more about the political dynamics in Rivers State. Please do stay tuned.